What's that? You want to be scared? Come with me. You will experience tales of horror, ghosts, and death. It is not recommended for the weak at heart. Listen in the dark. It's more fun that way. This is Weekly Spooky.
Hello, my friends, and thank you for joining us for another week of thrills and chills, and this is a very, very patriotic episode of Weekly Spooky. I'm, of course, your host and narrator, Henrik Kuto, and this week we got a special story, as you can tell by the little opening there. Everybody loves the pop, 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 and the booms, and the oohs, and the ahs that come with the 4th of July, at least if you're in the United States of America, but there are many, citizens, so to speak, who don't necessarily appreciate all of that jarring, explosive joy. And I've been known to like fireworks myself, but lately, I don't know if this has been happening in your city, but in many cities all over the United States, there is just too goddamn much fireworks. Just a little bit more than there's ever been for the rest of the year, and it's not even the 4th yet. We're 4 days away. It's driving me crazy, and more so, it's driving my friends of the four-legged persuasion absolutely nuts. So this week, our story is very special because not only is it Independence Day themed, but there's a little bit, a whole lot of vengeance at play. And what's more cathartic than a little vengeance? So let's read the story now, and then afterward I'll jaw at you a little bit more. A Dog and His Boy by David O. Hanlon. Rocco eyed the bags suspiciously as his boy brought them through the living room. He recognized the Starburst logo of Discount Demolition's Fireworks Emporium and shivered slightly. This was his third 4th of July since the adoption, and he'd already decided where he'd be cowering for most of the evening. When the big artillery shells went off, he would make his way to Ryan's closet where he could burrow into the safety of all the extra blankets. Rocco laid his head on his paw and snorted. Stupid humans, Rocco thought. Just because you can't bark doesn't mean you have to overcompensate with the big noisemakers. We still love you even though you're frail and feeble. Rocco climbed down from the couch and stretched away his morning nap in preparation of the coming game of fetch. Ryan always played fetch with him when he came home from school. Rocco wasn't sure why his human enjoyed throwing a ball or stick so many times, but if it brought him joy, then Rocco would gladly oblige the simple creature. There were more pressing issues to attend to first, however. Rocco dragged his butt across the living room floor all the way to the point the carpet ended and the linoleum began. It was a simple act, but one that required great skill nonetheless. If he misjudged his distance even slightly, he wouldn't get the whole itch before he ran out of plush, comfortable shag. Rocco trotted into the kitchen and Ryan dropped to his knees and held his arms open. "Come here, boy," his human called. Rocco jogged promptly to him and let the 10-year-old hug him and scratch him behind the ears and under his chin. Ryan asked him the usual questions, same every day. "Who's a good dog? Did you miss me while I was gone? Are you ready to go play? Would you like a milk bone?" Humans matured slower than dogs, so Rocco barked with increasing excitement to each question, and twice as much to make sure Ryan understood his willingness to accept a milk bone. There were few things as good as those delicious bone-shaped morsels. Real bones were nice, but all the flavor was on the outside, and Ryan's mother sprayed him with a hose the last time he attempted to acquire some from a squirrel that forgot its place in the food chain. Ryan's arm stretched to the kitchen table and the bag of fireworks swung like a clock pendulum in his chubby little fist. Rocco's head sagged at the sight. Ryan dumped out the contents. "Look what we've got, boy," Ryan waved his hand at the stockpile. "I know you don't like the loud ones. I got us smoke balls, sparklers, and Roman candles so we can still have fireworks without it scaring you." The collie's eyebrow raised slightly. Humans weren't even polite enough to sniff each other's butts, but his boy had been considerate enough to get dog-friendly ordnance for his yearly war on peace and quiet. Rocco buried his head into Ryan's chest and nuzzled him softly. "I love my human." Rocco licked the boy's mouth to a chorus of excited giggles, especially when he doesn't wash off all the pizza from his face. Rocco chewed a mouthful of grass under his favorite tree. 2 games of fetch and 6 milk bones were playing hell on his stomach. The chocolate Ryan's mom dropped while making brownies might not have helped matters either. Rocco swallowed the weeds thoughtfully. He'd never seen Ryan eating those brownies. She kept her own personal stash and Rocco couldn't blame her. They made him feel great. And hungry. Why do humans eat things that make them want to eat more things, he pondered. Bacon doesn't make you want to eat anything other than more bacon. Bacon seems much healthier. Rocco vomited precisely as he intended, and then sprinted to Ryan's side. His boy was striking the fire maker next to a colorful ball. The fuse sparkled brilliantly and Ryan tossed it a few feet away. A plume of smoke rose from the orb with a soft hiss and a horrible stench. "Too bad you can't see the color, Rocco," Ryan said. "It's blue, kid." Rocco wasn't sure who decided dogs couldn't see color. He could see all 3 of them just fine. Ryan threw another of the smoke balls. It was brown. It was also anticlimactic. Rocco appreciated Ryan's efforts to include him in the festivities, but felt a little bad for him. The other kids were already starting in with their screeching rockets and boomsticks. Rocco's butt tucked in as he scurried closer to the boy and away from the ungodly explosion on the other side of the fence. Heathens. Rocco would try to tolerate it a bit longer so Ryan could enjoy his other goodies. The boy lit a pair of sparklers and danced about merrily, twirling patterns into the dimming sky. Rocco watched the devices spit gouts of color-changing flame and found himself impressed with the show. It seemed a useless invention, but it was making Ryan happy, so Rocco thought it was great. Almost as great as cartoons. Rocco's tail wagged excitedly. If Ryan had pizza at school, that meant it was Friday, which meant tomorrow was Saturday, and that meant it was cartoons and Lucky Charms day. It also meant he got to sleep on the bed all day. A sudden explosion brought him back to the present, and he yelped before curling into a ball at Ryan's feet. Ryan knelt next to him and stroked his ears. "It's starting to get loud now, I guess. That means it's time for the big finale, Rocco. Let's do some Roman candles and then we'll go inside where it's quiet and safe." Rocco sprang up and danced in a happy circle. The sooner they went inside, the sooner it would be tomorrow. Ryan lifted one of the long sticks and pointed it into the air. Rocco observed the rest of them in their cellophane packaging while Ryan tried to light the fuse. The collie cocked his head at the tiny human words written on the side. He looked up at Ryan and then back at the warning. "I'm pretty sure this says not to hold it, kid," Rocco barked to get his attention. "Really, it says right there in plain human." Rocco picked up one of the tubes and poked at Ryan's leg. "It's not for fetch, silly." The boy laughed and struck the lighter again. The fuse sparkled to life. "I'm not trying to play fetch." Rocco growled urgently. "You're not supposed to—" The bang wasn't that loud. It was muffled by Ryan's closed fist. Rocco whined mournfully as his boy collapsed to the grass. Rocco sighed. Damn it. Ryan's mom came running outside to answer the child's screams. The shattered cardboard tube sputtered and smoked beside him. She scooped her son up and ran back to the house. Rocco started to follow, when he remembered something that seemed important. He turned back to retrieve Ryan's thumb and bolted after them with the dismembered digit clutched gingerly between his teeth. The back door smacked him in the nose and he toppled off the steps. A series of explosions made him cower and he turned his eyes up to the fiery sky flowers blossoming overhead. He laid Ryan's thumb gently on the steps and scampered to his tree. He was locked out. His boy was injured on his watch. He failed to keep Ryan safe, and now he was trapped outside, with the fireworks. It was a fitting punishment. He looked at the finger with its scorched knuckle and whimpered, "Please be okay, boy." Rocco curled into a ball beneath the tree's canopy. "I don't have thumbs, and I do all right. I'll teach you how to read human so it'll never happen again." It was well past dark, and the fireworks were coming faster than Rocco could count. Even the squirrels, the mental half-wits that they were, knew to hide from the human thunder. Rocco took it upon himself to personally destroy the remaining weapons of mass destruction. They tasted terrible, but it was a small price to pay to protect his boy. Ryan only had one thumb left, after all. "Hey, look it!" a shrill adolescent voice said through the knothole in the fence. "It's that stupid dog with the girly hair!" Rocco recognized the voice. Rocco hated Timmy Treadwell as much as he hated those damn Roman candle things. "It's a mane, you simpleton, like a lion, but better because I'm not a cat." "I saw that little wimp and his mom leave a while ago," another boy said. "Let's have some fun." If Timmy was outside, that meant Bud and Lenny were with him. After all, you can't have a dick without two balls hanging about. The high school trio was a scourge to the kids in the neighborhood. They chased Ryan home on more than one occasion until Rocco managed to get over the fence. A warm, fuzzy feeling hit the collie's stomach as he fondly remembered Bud urinating on himself. They knew better than to mess with his boy, after all. "Let's have some fun," Timmy said. Rocco heard the telltale hiss of a fuse lighting just before the whiz of the rocket-propelled firecracker shot overhead. His ears rang from the sharp explosion. Another one came streaking through the knothole a second later. Rocco snaked around his tree as the teens laughed maniacally on the other side of the fence. "Go with something bigger," Lenny cheered. "The big bad wolf is scared of a little pop-pop," Timmy goaded. "You know what, kid? You're right. We should have a little fun." Rocco stretched out behind the wide trunk of the tree and steeled his nerves. "I've had it up to here with you stupid, sniveling, hairless fuck-knuckles and your thumb-wrecking fireworks. Enough is enough." The rising Phoenix Freedom rocket with red, white, and blue effects screamed through the hole with the ferocity its name implied. Rocco was too sick of it all to care. He bolted from behind the tree, dipping under the boisterous bombardment as the device detonated overhead. An eye flicked in from the knothole. Rocco ran straight at it and then angled to the left, scurrying up the incline of Ryan's slide and launching himself into the air. Rocco's hair blew in the wind like the cloak of some masked avenger as he flew through the sky and landed on the sidewalk next to the three delinquents. "I've always wondered, which part of human tastes like bacon?" Rocco lowered his head and growled. "I'll give you a head start." He barked once and sent the boys running. Rocco watched them sprinting along the sidewalk and wished he could laugh like Ryan. Teenage humans were by far the most awkward and uncoordinated prey he'd ever seen. He remembered when Ryan adopted him from the animal shelter. There were no needles or diodes or kooky old men in white coats like his old home. Those men weren't nice to him, like Ryan. They never let him watch cartoons either. And Rocco was a much better name than Domestic Infiltration Canine or Dick, as the old men called him, even if he was named after an animated wallaby. But as bad as the old men treated him, they did let him hunt. 3 years was a long time for a dog. He hoped he still had it in him as his claws scraped across the concrete in anticipation of the kill. Lenny had gained weight since their last encounter. He would be well marbled, and it seemed a shame to not enjoy the spoils of the hunt, so Rocco decided to give him a momentary reprieve. He sprinted past the portly youth and focused his pursuit on Bud. Bud's hip chain swung wildly as he fought to keep his wide-legged jeans up over his hips. He failed miserably and fell on his face. Rocco slowed down a little and gave him some hope. Bud kicked his pants off and abandoned them as he shot across the street. Rocco hurtled the hood of a passing car to the bleating of its horn. Even their conveyances needed something to make up for their inability to bark, it seemed. Humans were such self-conscious animals. Bud ran around the corner and made a beeline toward the playground. Rocco never realized how close Ryan's school was to home. He could have been coming to see him this whole time. He'd do that when Ryan came home. And they had a merry-go-round, too. Rocco loved riding the one at the park with his boy. "Focus, you have work to do," he reminded himself. Rocco watched Bud clamber over the fence and spill, bare-assed, into the playground. The dog stopped at the gate. "Stupid dog! You can't get over this fence as easy, can you?" Rocco lifted the hasp with his nose and sauntered through the gate. "This Bud's for me," Rocco thought, with an amused bark. Oh, as far as last words go, Bud could have chosen better. The chase was over right there. A quick lunge and a quicker bite. Fireworks bloomed overhead as Rocco worked his muzzle inside the hoodlum's ribcage. He pulled his head back and licked his lips. Smoker lungs. Yuck. He sniffed the air. "Where'd you get to, Lenny?" "Bud? Where'd you go, pal?" Lenny called out in his nasal whine. "Don't make it too hard on me or anything." "Come on, Bud, quit goofing around," Timmy added. Rocco looked at the corpse and grabbed an ankle, dragging it into the culvert. Tiny lights shimmered in the darkness of the man-made cave. Rocco barked at the critters. The rotund little bandits scampered from the darkened corners and gathered around Bud's remains. Rocco vocalized some more and the creatures chittered happily. Raccoons and dogs have a similar language and similar tastes. They went to work of disposing his garbage while he returned to the hunt. Rocco crept along the houses trying to avoid the street lamps. The cacophonous celebration of independence made his ears ring and his head pound. He sniffed the air trying to ascertain his quarry's direction. The sulphurous fallout of the firecrackers drifted across the neighborhood in a fog that masked their pungent stench. He was sure they were near. A tube rolled across the sidewalk. Rocco looked at it quizzically. It looked just like the rolls Ryan's butt paper came on, except it had a fuse. Oh. The homemade firecracker detonated with a ferocity that drowned out everything else in the neighborhood. Bits of concrete pelted Rocco's fur, and the force of the blast made the street swirl chaotically before his eyes. He slumped over in the grass and stared up at the mulberry bush leaning over him. The scent of his smoldering mane drifted across his nose. "We got him, Lenny!" Timmy hollered. "Go make sure he's dead!" Lenny slid a long cardboard tube from his backpack and held the lighter close to the fuse. Roman candle. Rocco suppressed a growl. Sons of bitches brought the Roman candles. Rocco played dead and watched the teen draw closer. He waited for the moment to move. The porch light kicked on and the screen door's aluminum frame banged against the house as the homeowner came storming outside. Lenny looked up at the shouting old man wearing nothing but an open bathrobe and froze in place. Rocco's head popped up and his lips curled back away from his fangs. Well-maintained and pearly white thanks to his special dental treats. Lenny yelped and struck the lighter. "You little bastards want to shoot your dang-nabbed bangerangs at my house? I'll learn you something!" the geriatric shouted with his fist pumping in the air. Rocco lunged forward. Multicolored fireballs blasted from the tube in sequence. Rocco juked left, then right. He zigzagged between the pyrotechnic pummeling of the handheld terror. Lenny dropped the tube before it was even finished expending its payload and turned to run. Another explosion filled the air and Lenny howled in pain before collapsing to the ground. Rocco stood over the sobbing boy. His butt was bleeding and the subtle scent of salt tickled Rocco's nose. Jostling human manhood wiggled next to his head. The collie looked up slowly to see the homeowner standing next to him with the shotgun resting on his shoulder. "That's a good boy. This mean little crotch dumpling was chasing you with those stupid old fireworks, wasn't he?" The old man patted Rocco's head.
A bum full of rock salt'll learn him right quick. Yes, sir.
Rocco wasn't sure how he felt about the sudden turn of events, but Timmy was getting away. He licked the old man's hand in gratitude, and the bitter tinge of Ben Gay made his tongue go numb and loll from the side of his mouth.
Oh, you're a sweet boy. You better get on home before your kiddos start missing you.
Shit. He gave a bark of agreement. Good call, crazy naked man. Ryan will be home soon. Rocco dashed along the sidewalk, honing in on Timmy's cologne and the bag full of high explosives. They didn't smell like Ryan's fireworks. They were more pungent. He remembered his time at the lab. Sometimes the hunts were augmented with different smells. The crackpots made him chase a group, but he could only attack the guy that smelled like drugs and bombs. Hey, wait a second. The memory of the scents came crashing back to him. That's why those brownies smelled so familiar. Rocco decided not to worry about the ingredients in the baked goods and to focus on the scent of gunpowder instead. Timmy was fast, for a human. The gravel driveway led him to the quaint little house, and the odor of odious ordnances hung heavily over the yard. Rocco looked across the expanse for any sign of his prey, but it seemed as empty as it was vast. There was a shed sitting closer to the house, and he eased toward it when the silhouette of a backpack caught his eye. Rocco observed the shed again. A heavy lock hung from the door. No, that's not right, he realized. Timmy couldn't lock it back from the inside. He turned away and went to the bag. A structure rose from the middle of the yard a dozen feet away. Rocco circled the round stone tube sticking out of the ground. He put his paws on the lip and peered over the edge into the well. Timmy Treadwell hung over the edge and cried loudly at the sight of Rocco's mane blowing in the midnight breeze. The dog's dark eyes glanced at Timmy's hands, clinging desperately to the stonework. Not just at his hands, his thumbs. Rocco clamped down on Timmy's opposable digits one after the other, and the boy slipped away with a screech that disappeared as the water engulfed him. Gurgles and frenzied splashing echoed up the shaft. Until they didn't. Oh no, somebody help! Rocco trotted away, jolly. Timmy's fallen down the well. The blue sedan pulled into the driveway shortly after sunup. Rocco looked up, expecting another false alarm, but saw the puffy plume of hair bobbing on top of the driver's head and knew it was Ryan's mom. He gave the air a sniff to verify and found the stench of her aquanet, a welcome torment. He discarded his bone over the side of the porch. The best part was on the outside anyway. She opened the back of the car and Ryan stepped out with his hand tightly wrapped in an oversized bandage. His face was sad, until he saw the ball of fur running to meet him. Ryan dropped to his knees as Rocco rushed into his arms. I knew you'd be worried, boy. Of course I was. You're my human. I'll always worry about you. We're never having fireworks again. Ryan kissed the dog's snout. I love you, Rocco. I love you too. Ryan's mom screamed and it made both of them jump. Rocco spun quickly and relaxed. She was staring down at the thumbs he'd brought home to replace Ryan's. One of them was sure to fit. I gotta applaud that one because I am going through something related to this. I have always loved fireworks, and I have two rescue dogs who happen to be somewhat of the collie persuasion. And one of them, his name is Chicano. I adopted him at about 7 years old, and he's from an abusive home, and he has a hard time with loud sounds. In fact, just today, in the drive-thru at McDonald's with him in the back seat, we heard a boom of some sort. I swear it must have been fireworks because nobody was panicking like it was gunfire, and he climbed right over the console and sat in the seat right next to me. He doesn't freak out. He just gets really clingy, and if it's loud enough, like some of these explosions, which sound damn near like shotgun shells, he'll start to shake a little bit, and I have to kind of hold him and cuddle him and keep him calm. So this story is very pertinent to me after I just, got back from the pharmacy after filling Chicano's prescription for anxiety medicine, because I get setting off the fireworks on the 4th of July, but not just any damn time you want, all the time, and this friggin' loud and constant. I mean, I've been dealing with this problem at almost 3 weeks prior to the 4th of July, but on the actual 4th, I will happily dope my sweet dog up and cuddle him so that everybody can enjoy the festivities. So I don't mean to sound like a yenta or a whiny old lady or something, but it has driven me crazy, and so has it driven my poor pooch. So I appreciate the story, and I'm sure if Chicano could read or even just understand English, he would appreciate the story too. So thank you a whole lot, David, for that great story. And speaking of thank you, I want to thank all of our lovely Patreon backers, which you can find out more about at weeklyspooky.com, but especially our boosters, Kevin Fry, Jack Kerr, Karen Weemet, Jason Limberg, I Am Mr. Cheeseball, Jerry Roth, Craig Cohen, and Rob Fields. So, please, my friends, enjoy your 4th of July, but don't tick off any dogs, and I'll be back next Wednesday with another scary story. So thanks a lot, talk at you later.
Thank you for listening. Make sure to find your way back next week. But for now, you're safe. Trust me.